Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles. We're going to talk about Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake, the controversy around it, and a new wrinkle. I just got tagged in by Kita on Twitter/X. Is that what we're calling it now? Twitter/X? TwitX? And apparently they're trying to scrub an interview from the internet that had Yuji Horii and Kazuhiko Toriyama, who was the editor-in-chief of Shonen Jump. And I covered this in a previous video. They had an interview at the Tokyo Game Show, and they were talking about the censorship and the changes being made to this game by current year Square Enix. And they thought they were stupid changes. They thought that the censorship was unnecessary. They didn't understand why we got rid of gender for body type A and B, and why they had to put shorty shorts, booty shorts, and a sports bra on the female warrior, that they made changes to Akira Toriyama's art after he died. A lot of people not happy about that. And the interview made the rounds, and people are like, yeah, when the creator of Dragon Quest and the editor of Shonen Jump, who knew Toriyama very, very well, think that these changes are idiotic and stupid, and they were very dismissive of the changes. They didn't understand why America was doing this, and they said it was for the West. Basically, they had to change things for the West, and I know the editor of Shonen Jump thought that the changes being made to manga were ridiculous on top of video games. But yeah, it's apparently it's being scrubbed, and I would guess it's probably at the request of Square Enix, because it's making them look very, very bad and very, very woke, quote unquote. Because it's a stupid change. The game is like, what, 30 some years old? Who gives a crap? Even the interviewer was like, and it was a woman, she thought it was very weird that they were going with body type A and B on a 30-plus-year-old game. She thought it was weird just in general. She's like, why are we doing this? Oh, because America's crazy. That's why. Because they don't believe men and women exist anymore, or some crazy shit like that. So we're gonna talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Check out clownfishminus.com for more podcast content and other content that you will not find on YouTube. Again, big thank you to Kita for putting this on my radar. I've been kind of following this because it felt like the tide was kind of turning, right? It felt like a lot of people in the video game industry are kind of pushing back against this stuff now, especially older developers, people that have been in the industry for a while. And, there have been massive amounts of money being lost by chasing DI initiatives, right? I mean, we've seen several high profile examples: Concord, Dustborn, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Star Wars Outlaws, that wound up being a dud. And now that's not necessarily because of a DEI, but also other problems and also a general lack of interest in Star Wars. Assassin's Creed Shadows, that's going to be a disaster, right? They're quickly reworking the game now to try to salvage their sales. But, I was very surprised to see Dragon Quest of all games make this pivot. And I think it's because of Square Enix. Square Enix now they're doubling down on losing money on stupid shit. I mean, on the other hand, they have, the new game from the Gooch. Well, it's not a new game. I guess it's a remake of a mobile game. It's a Fantasian, Neo Dimension Fantasian, which is pretty awesome. I just wish they would give them the green light to do an actual Final Fantasy game and not like a one-up, but whatever. I'll take what I can get, as long as they don't have body type A and body type B. Anyway, Kita says, hey, all you people covering the Yuji Horii, Akira Toriyama, editor for half a century, commenting on updating the Dragon Quest III being censored. The interview has been purged from the entire internet with fire. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. This is coming from Sack Chief. Sack Chief says, the guy who uploaded the translated Yuji Horii Torishima clip has taken it down and apologized for it. I cannot believe this is actually happening. They're working around the clock, scrubbing this from the internet. It's actually disgusting. The real question is, if he's telling the truth about the translation, why delete the whole thing? Kita actually jumps in here again, says, actually, why did the Japanese Games Talk website delete their article talking about it? They didn't use the subtitled video. They used the raw Japanese and provided a transcript. Because something clearly malicious is going on, says SAC Chief, and I can't believe more people don't see it. Fingal Belmont says, Square Enix could easily reverse this by just uncensoring the game, easiest thing in the world. Ben here says, Square sent their legal team and is trying to censor the information, pure panic over everything being revealed. They know as soon as gamers get a whiff that a game is woke, quote unquote, right? They outright reject it, especially a game like Dragon Quest III, which is a legacy title. Like, I think they need to leave these games alone. They need to leave the old games alone because most of your audience are adults. Most of them are middle-aged. They played this game when they were kids or teenagers. I think they can deal with the concept of gender. I think they can deal with the warrior, the female warrior, not having booty shorts on. They did it when they were 12, right? I mean, it's so weird. Just the self-censorship is so weird. And that's what the editor of Shonen Jump was saying too. Even when it comes to manga, the self-censorship is so weird. And there are, some cases, there are some cases where, they're not going to release it on a platform or whatever if it has XYZ thing. But I think this is the company themselves. Some of the manga, like there were a lot of cases where manga was released over here. They changed the translation. It had nothing to do with whether or not the work could be sold in a bookstore or on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or whatever. And it had everything to do with the person in charge of the translation wanting to change things that they found were personally problematic. These people don't know their roles. Their roles as a localizer, their role is technically to just translate the text and give Western audiences as close an approximation of what is being said, as they can. Now, there are games that have taken significant liberties with the translation over the years. And, one of my favorite series of all time is Lunar. And that is coming out again for PlayStation next year. They're going to release the first 2 games. There only were 2 games, and then they had the spin-offs or whatever. But I can almost guarantee you that the bromides will not be in it because of current year. For those of you who don't know, the bromides are spicy pictures of the female party members that you find along the way in the games. And it's kind of a side quest. You go collect the bromides, and I can almost guarantee you they're going to take those out or they're going to change them significantly. So it's so weird because in some ways, people used to complain about censorship back in the day. Nintendo was ridiculous with censorship, and Sony was actually, bringing stuff over here that was mostly uncensored. And that was a huge deal back then. And now it's like Nintendo, as much as I get on them for, them being, highly litigious and being absolutely ridiculous when it comes to copyright strikes and lawsuits and all that stuff. And they go after the little guy more so than they need to, I believe. At least they're letting stuff get released, I think, mostly intact with a warning. There's nothing offensive in Dragon Quest III. There's nothing offensive in that game. And again, the whole body type A, B thing, like I would expect that in a current year title, right? But this is a game that's over 30 years old. Chris 500 says, this is ridiculous, all this drama for a small change that has no effect on the gamer story. Yeah. Stu Gott says, I can believe it. Woke Coldest will go to any length necessary to spread their bullshit. Sleep Retrospective says, so one word was wrong, big deal. Angie says they probably held him at gunpoint. How convenient for one word to be wrong. Is that what they're saying? There was one word wrong? Oh my God. I don't think that's what's going on. This is a Valute News. The English translation says, I'd like to sincerely apologize for the incorrect English subtitles created for Mr. Kazuhiko Torishima's statement in the scene where he mentioned Puritan, it was mistakenly translated as sex ed. This error was due to my mishearing. I deeply apologize for any inconvenience caused to all parties involved. That wasn't my big takeaway. My big takeaway was, regardless of whether or not one word was mistranslated, the overall gist of the conversation, and it was several minutes, was basically two older guys, professionals, well-respected creative professionals, complaining about DEI in video games and how unnecessary it is and how unnecessary the censorship is. And especially in a game like this. I mean, this is just like, what are you doing? Right? And I guarantee you it was somebody at Square in California that made the call to go with the body type A and the body type B and the booty shorts on the warrior. Controvert says, is that the only mistake? How about everything else? I've seen that you have taken down the original tweet. Those two words change nothing. Yeah, if everything else is correct, then nothing has changed. It's very clear who is influencing how the game is made. Yeah. Here's a Japanese post. Said, yeah, I think it's okay because it doesn't change much. Both of them describe it as ways of thinking about sexual matters, so I don't think there's any need to worry. Gormy says he was just telling the truth. No one likes Western leftists, and it serves no purpose to cater to them in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, the 20-something side-shaved blue hairs from Portland are not going to buy Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake. They're not going to buy it. It's an old man game, right? They're not going to buy the old man game. Why are you catering to them? They don't care. It's not for them. It's just not for them. They'll go buy some, boy on boy furry dating sim or something. That's more to their liking. They're not going to buy Dragon Quest. They are at the heart of all censorship and never once represent the majority of the opinions in the West, so stop being scared of them. The problem is that these people, it feels very coordinated. I don't think a lot of these activists are smart enough to think of this on their own. A lot of them seem like sheep, but they basically have been kind of installed in critical nodes in media, right? So we get, okay, you want to take over the Western gaming industry. You install people in journalism. You install people at the companies to be your sensitivity readers or your HR managers so you can control who comes into the company. Then those people tell their bosses they need to go hire somebody like Sweet Baby Inc. to come in and tell them what else is wrong with their game. And if you complain about it, well, the community managers and all the game forums, well, they're part of the problem too. And it happened right under most people's noses. Like, I mean, this has been going on for at least 10 years now, but a lot of it was just like cheap, dumb help. In my opinion, they got people cheap. They got people that were easily manipulated, and they started, getting into these fan spaces, and we've seen it all over the place. And we're seeing the results of it. The results of this, of hiring unqualified people, not only are they chasing off your paying customers, right? I mean, they're costing these game studios hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, what is it going to fucking take to wake up and be like, you want to talk about woke? Wake the fuck up to what is actually going on. Okay. You hopped on board, the DEI train, and it's careening off of a cliff. You're losing hundreds of millions of dollars making games, comics, and movies for a very, 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 very small audience. And that is not sustainable. And look, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying you cannot have niche games for niche gamers or niche comics for niche comic book readers. But when everything is Portland, when everything is LA, do you think gamers in the flyover states, the quote unquote flyover states, are going to buy your Portland based, sensitivity red, inbred game? No, they're not going to. They'll be like, I just want a fucking Batman game. I don't want all this shit in my game. I just want to play Dragon Quest because I played Dragon Quest on my Nintendo when I was a kid. And what the hell is this? And, you start, it's not hard. Like, I think a lot of these executives were asleep at the wheel, because a lot of the people that are in charge, I'm like, I know you know better. I know you know better than this, but you've got your HR person pressing you, and you've got your community managers pressing you, and you're too fucking lazy, Mr. CEO, to do the work yourself, to go out there and actually slum it and see what the gamers actually want. So you're relying on a mistranslation. You're relying on your community managers and your HR people and your social media people and your marketing people to tell you what gamers want. And what they're giving you is a distorted version of reality. And then, oh my God, what's going on? Why are our games not selling? Because you listen to these people. You let them in. You let the vampire into the house. Now everything sucks. Right? And you did it willingly. It wasn't like they forced their way in. You opened the door. You said, here, come on in. Sure, we're diverse and inclusive. Bring all your friends. You know, how many of you guys can we stuff into a Volkswagen? Come on over to our game studio and just take the fucking place over and push out all the people that have been here for 30 years, actually know what the fuck they're doing. That's what happened. It's same with comics too. You look at the state of Marvel and DC Comics. You have like enough people, you can count on like one hand that know what the fuck they're doing anymore. I mean, the average Marvel or DC comic that you pick up now, the quality has never been lower. Like even in the 90s when they had there were some pretty shit comics in the 90s because they're cranking out so many comics, but like every freaking comic book now is basically just fan fiction. Right? I mean, save for a few. I mean, they put the best people they have left on the bigger titles. But most people they've been either pushed out of the industry or they left on their own because it's ridiculous. And I think the same thing is going on with video games. A lot of the devs are just leaving or they're getting pushed out. The people that actually know what the fuck they're doing, and they're going off and doing their own thing. If they're allowed to, because now if you use the Godot engine, and you don't agree with them because they're a community manager, you're going to be pushed out the damn door too. But like, this is insane. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. That they're making him apologize. And I guarantee you this is Square. So yeah. Kita goes on to say, crib notes. We'll wrap it up with this. Last living member of the 3-person team that created Dragon Quest, which would be Yuji Horii, and Akira Toriyama's good friend and Dragon Ball's editor, who was also the editor-in-chief of Shonen Jump for decades, Kazuhiko Torishima, were interviewed at the Tokyo Game Show. During the interview, they were asked about the censorship of Dragon Quest III. In response, Torishima complained about the censorship of Toriyama's female warrior design. Yeah, it's completely unnecessary, and expresses frustration with American puritanical views and how difficult publishing Jump, even in Japan, has become because of it. Because what they're afraid of is they're not going to be able to bring that manga to Western audiences because it's too dicey. And we've seen this. We've seen this like concerted effort. It's whatever the big thing is, right? That's what they go after. Oh, tabletop's big now because, Critical Role and stuff. Oh, we got to infect that. We got to go after that and make sure that the orcs are properly represented as people. They can't be black stereotypes. They have to be Mexican stereotypes. And they have families now. It's like, fuck that. Orcs are bad. They're fodder. They're XP fodder. They're not even real. Okay. They're not real people. And then, video games are problematic. And this is going back to like 2014. So it's almost like a whole bunch of like gender studies majors got released from Berkeley and then they all filtered out into media, journalists and consultants and, influencers and, what I'm saying, none of them are like developers though. They're not actually devs because that means you actually have skills. You actually have to be able to code. Did you ever notice that like most of these people, they're never actually the ones that make the shit. They're the ones that want to tell other people how to make the shit because they don't know how to make shit. They move into websites that are already built. They move into game studios or comic publishers that are already built. And then they come in and they want to change everything. It's kind of like, dating a woman, having her come, or a man, and having this person come into your apartment that you've had for like 10 years on your own, being like, yeah, I hate everything about it. And I hate your wardrobe too. I'm going to go through your closet and I'm going to throw all your clothes out. And you're going to wear what I tell you to wear. And you're going to redecorate your apartment because this is our apartment now. And I don't see myself represented in your apartment anymore. And then like 2 months later, you guys move out and go get a shared apartment or buy a house or something anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's like, basically they just want to come in and have control. That's it. That's it. That is the point. They don't give a shit what happens to the game industry. They don't give a shit what happens to the comic book industry. They don't give a shit what happens to these websites. All they care about is putting their mark on something that somebody else has already built, tagging it like fucking graffiti, right? Yeah. So anyway, they said, 10 hours ago, the woman who performed the interview posted a post complaining about the clip and how it had gone viral in the US. Yeah, but she actually was joining in. She said, I think it's weird. At the same time, this user, Sawe0345, deleted the entire Twitter timeline, posted an apology. That was the one that I think we read. At the same time, the Japanese publisher that handled the interview posted a statement claiming that the clip was 2 minutes out of a 6-hour stream and accused the translation of being invalid because of one mistranslated word. The original Japanese stream on YouTube was set to private. The original Japanese stream on Nico Nico was set to private. That's the state of play right now. Yeah, it was Square. I can almost guarantee you it was Square. So big props to Kita. Go follow them on Twitter /X, Eldermark. Yeah, I was completely unaware of this, but it doesn't surprise me at all. I was like, how are they getting away with this? Because I know how locked down these companies are. And I'm like, oh, they got away with it because it was Japan. And Japan's a fairly polite country, right? So for them to be ripping on the West like this is, I mean, they gotta be irritated. I guarantee you these two guys are having conversations all the time about how freaking ridiculous everything is now and how they're glad they're retired or semi-retired so they don't have to deal with it. I mean, I've heard stories from people that used to work at Disney. I've heard stories that used to work in other parts of animation, or they used to work on video games or comic books or whatever. And they're like, thank God I am retired because I could never deal with this shit now. But again, they're vampires. You let them in. So now you gotta take them out, right? Did you see Lost Boys? Yeah, we need somebody to drive a truck through the fucking front door and stake the head vampire. Then we'll be fine. I'm just saying. Then we'll be fine. Everything will go back to normal. Gonna wrap it up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later. Join the reef. Go to clownfishminus.com. That's clownfishminus.com. You will get exclusive access to podcasts and videos and comic strips and more, as well as merch discounts. Check it out. If you were a member, you could get this t-shirt, this dismal t-shirt on our website. You'd get a 10% discount on that. You can also join in the community on clownfishminus.com. Thank you so much for the support.